What's good, everybody? It's Profex back with another bomb vlog. This is number 2. I appreciate everyone that checked out the first one. That was definitely kind of a trial run or everything, and this is still gonna be a trial run. We're still trying to figure things out. But this time, we start off with a conversation sparked by a friend of mine that shot me a message after checking out the last vlog. Um, he actually brought up his top 2 artists in the game, which his number 1 was Andre 3000, hence the Outcast playing in the background, and his number 2 was B.O.B. So now I'll start with B.O.B. I was a big fan of him when he was coming into the game. I listened to a lot of his mixtapes. A lot of his features were dope. Pretty much anything that he put out, I was right there for it, and I was pushing it on everybody else. So when he announced the album, that was getting pushed. I'm a big fan of Lupe as well, and Lupe was putting a lot of push behind it. There was a lot of pretty dope YouTube videos that came up with that, like one where Lupe bought the album on stage after it came out, which I thought was one of the dopest moments in hip hop. So, first album dropped. It was dope, in my opinion. I thought it was a really good album. I thought it was one of the top albums that year. So sue me, whatever. But it had a few songs that appealed to a pop demographic, which hip hop heads, when you delve into that poppy sound, most of them are gonna, breathing down your neck. And I felt if you listen to his mixtape, pretty much all of his music, but specifically if you listen to B.O.B versus Bobby Ray, he kind of prepared you for that type of sound. It was pretty much like, why you surprised? You know what I'm saying? Like, the album come out, you should have listened to my old stuff. You would have known what was coming. There you go. And I thought he executed the album well. Now, there was a grittiness that he has displayed on songs that was missing. But then he dropped No Genre right afterwards. And it was like the perfect companion piece to the album. It had that gritty, hardcore mixtape feel that you can't really get in a in the pop world, in the mainstream world, we'll say. So I was good. First album was surprisingly good to me. Even with the sounds, but then the mixtape added on to that, I was perfectly satisfied. But then the singles for the second album started dropping, and I try not to pay too much attention to them, but the little snippets that I heard were really kind of, it was too popish. And then the whole thing about, hey, he's got Taylor Swift on his album, I was like, all right, I'm gonna sleep on that, because there's no telling what could come from that kind of collaboration. You can make your assumptions, but you don't know until you hear it. He also, said that he had 3 stacks on the album, and also Nicki Minaj, which Nicki Minaj is a vlog for another day. But the second album dropped. Was not feeling it at all. The Taylor Swift track, I probably listened to it once in its entirety. Wasn't really a fan. Which I was cool with that being, an attention grabber or whatever, and getting the billions of Taylor Swift fans on your side. Cool, do your thing, getting your money, whatever. The Andre 3000 feature, didn't really like it too much. The beat, and I really didn't like either one of the verses. And then, surprisingly enough, the Nicki Minaj feature ended up being the one that I like the most. Whatever. But I, being dissatisfied with that second album, I did not buy the second album. I admit that. First one I bought, would have paid for the mixtape. Second album, didn't buy. And I was like, all right. I almost bought the album thinking, hey, the mixtape follow up to this should be pretty dope. And then it came out. I'm blanking out right now. I can't remember the name of it. But it came out and it sucked. It was horrible. Could not stand it. The whole thing. It was just terrible. Like it was a bunch. Like no genre seemed like an album level of skill and the time, the effort, an album level of effort. This one sounded more like a mixtape, and it was, it sounded like a bunch of tracks thrown together. Wasn't for that. Then later, fairly recently, he dropped another mixtape, "Fuck 'Em We Ball," and I was like, maybe that'll be the B.O.B that I like in no genre. Let's check it out. Also disappointing. And then, if y'all remember his BET cipher, which he basically made excuses for his extremely pop direction that he continued in, that I thought was just a byproduct of his creativity on the first album, but his cipher kind of made me think, hey, he knew what he was doing, he did it, he's gonna get this money off of it. He really does not care what anybody thinks at this point. Um, which I think he's paying for that now because, like, other than this person that said that B.O.B was his number two artist, um, I don't really hear about B.O.B too much anymore. Um, maybe I'm just overlooking it, but I think that his popularity has fallen off. Um, but maybe one day I'll go into more detail on that because there's some interesting stories behind that. I might bring those up. Um, Now, to his number one artist, Andre 3000. Now, if you exist anywhere outside of the radio when it comes to hip hop, be it websites, blogs, forums, YouTube comment section, which is a monster in itself, you've seen Andre 3000 be called the greatest of all time or the GOAT by somebody, which it can be argued, but I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate on this. And when you say things like greatest of all time or hottest rapper out, I take it as you meaning right now. Okay, um, he drops those not frequent, sporadic verses every now and then on random tracks with anybody. Like they can pop up at any time, and typically they are dope. I actually, other than that B.O.B track, I think I've enjoyed every one of his verses that he's dropped in some way. Um, but the thing is, if you don't drop an album and you drop maybe 10 to 12 to 15 verses a year, um, it's not difficult to make those really top quality verses. Like you can pull your time into doing those things, and I'm quite sure he's very selective about who he does when he does those features, maybe even who he does those features with, if the money's right or whatever. Um, but I mean, you're basing an entire year on those tracks. Um, that's that's too few and far between for me to consciously say you are the best out or the hottest out or the best rapper right now, because you have artists like we'll just do last year. You have Kendrick Lamar, which either OD dropped at the end of 2011 or dropped in 2012. I can't recall. But then you have his album to compare against everything. Um, I think he was the dopest artist last year. Period. Um, Andre, he might be in the top 10, but it's really, really hard to put him up there with there not being an album, a body of work to put up against other artists. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's one of the greatest rappers around. And I think once he does that album, it's going to be dope. But that album is not here. That's like Like, I can't tell you, hey, Jay Electronica is one of the dopest artists out right now. Jay Electronica is not out right now, which that's an unfair comparison because Jay ain't even putting out, feature verses like that. But still, you don't have that body of work. You got to look at it the same way. You'll be hot when you have an album out. Just like remember when Lupe got butthurt because he didn't make the hottest MC list. He didn't have anything out. He didn't have a mixtape. He didn't have an album. But then he put Enemy of the State out. Then people started caring, and it became dope again. Cool. But yeah, Andre 3000, great artist. Outkast, my favorite group of all time. When I get that album, then we can talk. Peace out.